Hi guys, good morning and welcome to Holistic Life with Kristen. So when I woke up this morning, I was just reflecting on something and I thought that I would get on here and share my thoughts with you. So as you may know, if you've seen my previous video where I talked to you about major changes for myself this year, I was just reflecting on my new situation. I left my job. I have been employed somewhere since I was 14. I've had a job since I was 14 years old. I entered the workforce at 14. And so my life, pretty much as long as I can remember, has included a job of some type. And the job that I was in just wasn't a particularly healthy situation for me. The universe gave me numerous nudges over and over telling me that this was just wrong for me, that this wasn't healthy for me. And I ignored it, because like most of us, most of us need a job. We need to pay our bills. We have to work. That's just the reality of the world and the life that we live. And so I just ignored my body's signals that were telling me that you need to make a change. So, if you ignore your body for just so long, it will force you. Eventually, it will force you to listen to it. And so that is basically what happened in January of this year. Excessive time sitting at a desk, stressing about deadlines was starting to get to me. And it not only that, but my blood pressure was elevated. When you don't have enough circulation during the day, you can't get up and move around enough, can't take breaks from your desk because otherwise you're not going to meet your deadlines. Sitting for in excess of 8 hours a day. That sedentary lifestyle, that high stress, constantly stressed out state that I was in, trying not to be late for anything all the time. And it took its toll on my body. And it finally got to such a point that I had to make a change. I had no choice to make a change. I'm not going to live very long if I don't take better care of myself, and I cannot continue to do that to my body. So long story short, I have known for quite a long time that I needed to make a change. I ignored those inner feelings and I pressed on. Finally, it came to a peak in January when I ended up in the hospital. The symptoms that I had in my body were too great to ignore. And it forced me to take a break and to really look at my health closely. In fact, now that I have left my job, I am currently going on some jobs just to spend time with my husband and help him any way that I can on some of his jobs. We have our own remodeling business. And as you can see, this was a huge project. I did show this in one of my previous videos. And so if you were wondering how this remodeling project turned out, this is the before, like kind of progress pictures. And now this is what it looks like now. It's got brand new flooring in the entire house. The owner decided they're going to paint themselves, so we did not paint. That's the only thing. Pretty much, we have new baseboards in here, new flooring in the entire house. The owners are going to paint. I'm not sure what color they're going to have and how it's going to look after the paint job, but that floor and the baseboard it just elevated this house so much. It changed it. It doesn't even look like the same house. New toilet, new cabinet, and a brand new walk-in shower in both bathrooms. And this tile that they picked just looks gorgeous. So they chose the materials, but we made it happen. And Gilbert, my husband, made their vision come true to life. They have new flooring in the whole house. It's just gorgeous. And this is on the coast. So this is just the perfect tile choice. There's my adorable husband just fussing over the fine details, finishing up a little bit of caulking of some sort. And so what I was reflecting on was that sometimes, the universe will give you an opportunity for change, and it's up to you to recognize it and to reach for it. In the past, I think I would have been terrified to do what I did this year, but then I look back, but as I was making my decisions about staying in this job or leaving this job, I was sort of reflecting back on my life in the past, things that seemed scary at the time and ended up being some of the best things that's ever happened to me. So one of those things is actually when I moved to Houston. So if you guys are about my age or older, you'll remember the economic downturn of 2009. It started to turn in 2008, but I was in my job in 2008. I graduated from college in 2007, and I immediately started working for a CPA firm in Ohio. And I was there, through 2007. I graduated in December, so I was in that job for 2008 and a lot of 2009. And then I was laid off in 2009. And to me, that just seemed like such a blow because I was fresh out of college, had very little experience, lost my job, and had no way to pay my bills. At that time, I had student loan debt. I had no way to pay my rent, no way to pay my student loans, and it was terrifying. So I did something a little bit wild. Looking back on it, it's something that I would probably hesitate to do if I was the age that I am now, but in my 20s, I was a little unpredictable. So when I got laid off, my apartment had a kind of a clause that they added because the economy was so terrible that you could either, if you broke the lease, it was going to cost you 2 months of rent, and then you would not be able to stay there. You would just pay 2 months of rent and you have to leave immediately. So because the economy was so bad and there were a lot of people like me, they put a special clause in there that you could pay 3 months rent and stay there for 3 months. So I thought, okay, well, if I've already got to pay 2 months rent to save my credit, I might as well pay an extra month. I had some savings. So let me go ahead and do that and try to find a job. And of course, the job market was so tough, especially in Ohio. It was small towns. There was just no good opportunities that I was able to find. So I did something drastic. I packed up all of my stuff that I could fit in my little red Chevy Cavalier, and I drove to Houston, Texas, from Ohio when I was in my 20s, fresh out of college, basically. And because I did some research, and Houston still had a decent job market despite the downturn. It seemed like there was still quite a few jobs available here, and mostly because of the oil and gas industry that's here. And also Houston has, for a big city, it has a very low cost of living. And I would argue that Houston, even though, large cities, I come from a small town. So people are very nice, and people are generally very good in smaller towns. And when you get into bigger cities, that's not always the case, but Houston, despite its size, I feel like there are a lot of good people here, so I feel like the people here, not all of them, of course, but there's a good chunk of people who really have good values here. And the cost of living was low and the job market was good. So I said, okay, this is my place. This is where I'm moving. So I just up and moved. My parents thought I was crazy. Maybe it was a little crazy, but for whatever reason, I mean, that seemed like the right thing to do. And it came to me as this is the right move for me. And although it was a little crazy sounding, when I really think back on it, all of the best things that I have in my life right now are a direct result of that decision. I have had such great career growth here. I have had wonderful career opportunities, have really grown as an accountant in Houston, have had lots of good job opportunities, and I bought my first house here, and my life has settled down here, and I met my husband here. And all of these things that I have wouldn't have been possible if I didn't move to Houston when I did. And although it seemed a little crazy and off the wall at the time, I don't know why the universe was just giving me this nudge that told me this is the right thing for you to do. And I did it, despite my fear that how things would turn out, and despite my parents' fear about how things would turn out. And look at my life now. I have an amazing life, and I'm so grateful that this crazy off the wall thought came to me, and I decided to go ahead and take it. So, there's so many, when I really think about my life, there's so many situations that I have been in where I hesitated on something, but it seemed like the right thing to do. And looking back on those things, it was the right thing to do. And I'm very grateful that I did what I did in all of those situations. So I was just reflecting on all of the situations, maybe not even all of them, but many of the situations that I have been in my life, even where there was disappointment sometimes, experiencing disappointment because something didn't work out the way that you wanted it to. And then in the long term, to realize that the thing that didn't work out for you wasn't the thing that you were supposed to have, And so my first job out of college didn't work out for me because I got laid off. And I'm in Houston. I've had a wonderful career. I have a beautiful home that is paid off. I have a wonderful husband, and all of that is only possible because in my 20s, I did something totally crazy, jumped in my car, and I moved to Houston. I was also reflecting on when we bought this house. We purchased this house at a time when houses were in really high demand. We started shopping for houses around 2014. This was a time in Houston especially where houses were in very high demand. I mean, people were snatching them up so fast. And it was a very fast-moving housing market. In fact, some houses were even purchased above the listing price because people were that desperate to win the bid for the house. So we spent 9 months very seriously hunting for homes, and we were visiting at least like 2 upwards towards a dozen houses every single week. And it was exhausting. We went to look at some houses that we walked in and we walked right back out because it was pretty evident, that there was foundation issues. In Houston, there's one very difficult thing, and that is finding a home that doesn't have foundation issues. There are a lot of foundation issues over here. So, in fact, some houses that we thought we were just absolutely going to love, a quick tour of the exterior of the home revealed that it looked like there could be some foundation issues. So when we found a situation like that, we just walked away and didn't look inside the house at all. And then sometimes we would go around the exterior of the house and we would, it looks pretty sound, and then we get inside and there could be something, cracks in the walls or uneven uneven spaces behind the cabinetry, different things. And so a lot of houses that we would walk in, maybe if we walked in 10 houses, that we walked right back out of like 3 of those, just because right off the cuff, it really looked like there might have been a foundation issue. So the ones that didn't have a foundation issue were few and far between, but there were some. And we put in multiple offers on houses before we bought this house. And we were beat out so many times by other people, who had, more money than we did, or cash buyers. Cash buyers beat us out a lot of times because, sellers are much more willing to accept a cash offer, it seems, because there's no financing that could fall through. So we did not have cash at the time. We had a small cash down payment. That was it. So the rest of our house had to be financed. And so we did get beat out a lot of times by cash buyers, investors. Because my husband has the skill, he is a general contractor. And at the time we were just starting to build our business. We were just starting to build the business, but he had a lot of skills, a lot of, he can basically take a house that's totally outdated and just make it beautiful. And so we wanted to buy a house that could be renovated. That's what we wanted. We wanted to buy a cheaper house that could be renovated and turned into exactly what we wanted. And it was really hard for us to get our hands on something like that because of all the investors who were coming in with cash and just swiping them out from underneath people, regular home buyers like us. We spent 9 months and we felt disappointment many times at being beat out by other people. And the crazy thing is, the house that we ended up closing on, which is this house, it was literally maybe the perfect house for us. And if we had won the price bids on any of those other houses, when we looked back, some of them were in flood zones. During Harvey, when things flooded so bad, we were thinking, if we had bought this house or that house, we would have probably had a major flood in the house right now. Or some of them were in areas where the taxes and the HOA fees were quite high. And we were thinking, we got very lucky in this house because the taxes are low, the HOA fees are low, and that really helps us to live a better life because we don't have really huge bills like some of the people around us that we know who have to pay in excess of $10,000 a year on HOA fees and taxes. We don't have that situation in this house. So when we really stopped to think over all the houses that we put offers in on, this was the perfect house and it worked out, So sometimes I just want to encourage you that when something happens that just seems devastating in some cases, it just seems like a huge disappointment. Sometimes that's actually a blessing in disguise. And I don't mean to sound corny because, I've just seen this happen so many times. I got laid off in college and then I'm in a better place now because of that. And then so many houses that we didn't get, and it was so disappointing at the time because we thought this is the perfect house, but it wasn't the perfect house. This is the perfect house and it worked out for us. And my husband, another example of this is my husband and I spent 2 years going to animal shelters to try to find a dog. And the funny thing is, we didn't really know what kind of dog we were looking for. When you're going through shelters, you're just sort of looking at what's there and trying to determine if one of those dogs is suitable. And you're just trying to basically, find one that just happens to be available. And so it doesn't take much for me to love a dog. Honestly, I just need a dog that loves me and I'll love it back, But my husband had more specific thoughts on what he wanted for a dog. And so we were having trouble finding, in like a couple years time period, we really struggled to find a dog for like 2 years. And then one day when we were least expecting it, Roxy literally just kind of came to us. And we weren't looking for a dog at the time because we had already adopted a dog, and I don't regret adopting that other dog. And I was almost not open to the possibility of adopting Roxy because I only wanted one dog. And my husband just was smitten with her, and he wanted to adopt her. And I was like, but we don't want 2 dogs. This isn't the right time. Okay, it wasn't the right time. It wasn't, it really didn't seem like the right time. But you know what? This happened at a time which didn't seem like the right time. But we decided, okay, the universe gave us this dog and she's perfect. So we're just going to accept that. And we're going to adopt her. We're going to adopt a second dog. Okay. So, it has been one of the best things that we have done because Roxy has given us so much joy because of this dog. And we now, our first dog that we had, Ginger, she has since passed away. And we were so glad to have Roxy when that happened. We were so glad she was with us. And, she really has been just the perfect dog. I don't think you could ask for a better dog than her. And somebody's idea of a perfect dog might not match my idea of a perfect dog. But for us, she was the dog that we spent 2 years trying to find, and we could not find her. And then when we were not looking for her, she just showed up. And so, the universe is funny like that. You kind of have to keep an open mind, and, when it's right, it's right, And so I just wanted to share that with you. And so, reflecting back on all of these experiences where, things didn't seem ideal, but they were, in fact, making space for something that was incredibly ideal, and for my best. The universe does tend to just work itself out like that. And so all of this being said, I just wanted to circle back around to my decision to leave my job because it was a really hard decision. But in the pit of my stomach, I know that it was the right decision for me to make for my health and my well-being. And I don't exactly know what's going to happen from this point forward. I don't have an exact plan for my life right now, which is freeing and terrifying all at the same time. But the universe was giving me signs that I just could not ignore anymore. And I know, I don't know what's going to happen in my life from this point forward, but I know that I made the right decision. In my heart, I have a sense of peace about the decision that I made. Because when you need to make a change, your body will my body was telling me. My body was telling me that I needed to make a change, and I was just ignoring it, thinking, trying to be very practical, thinking you're crazy to leave a good paying job, something that you've worked so hard to get where you are right now. It was difficult. It was really difficult, but I knew in the bottom of my stomach, I just knew that it was the right thing to do. And, since leaving my job, I still feel that it was definitely the right thing for me to do. And although I don't have an exact plan for my future at this moment, I am very open to see where my future is going to take me, and I will just accept because I'm sure, I'm very confident that wherever it takes me, it's going to be to a good place. Because I have seen that work out for me over and over and over and again. You just have to be patient. So I'm just being patient and, trying to be receptive to possibilities. So, so that pretty much wraps up my thoughts. I was just thinking about all of this, and I just wanted to get on here and just share with you my own experience and encourage you that whatever you're going through right now, Even if it doesn't seem ideal, even if you've been dealt what looks like and feels like a very bad blow, be patient and look forward to the future. As long as you're healthy, the future will work itself out. You know, you've just got to have a little bit of patience. So, all right, guys, I wish you the best day and good health and a happy life. And thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to see more content from my channel. Okay, guys, bye.